lovely, happy adoption. But I did absolutely feel like there was something amiss. Now I would call it like a kind of a identity crisis of sorts. Do you remember standing in the schoolyard when I was a girl and there was like a little gang of girls standing around me, and once I realised there was currency in being adopted, and because I was a little show pony baby, then I was like, I'm going to use this to my advantage. So then I was coming up with all sorts of stories. They're like, where are they? And I was like, plane crash, car accident.
It would make you more exciting.
There was one story, I think I was on the plane, I was a cell survivor. Mum's like, will you stop killing everyone off in plane crashes, Joanne?
You must have that sort of realization where you're like, okay, hang on, these are my parents, I love them, but I want to understand my history, right? My roots.
Yeah. You don't have your roots. And physically, you don't look like anyone and stuff. So, and I always had a huge amount of hair as a child, like loads of hair, which I still do. Obviously, I've lasered. I'm like a dolphin now, but growing up, I was like a little bear. Then when I found these like documents that when you're adopted, you come with a little pamphlet and your little outfit. It said that my father had loads of hair. So I became kind of very hyper focused on him. And then I remember there was an Irish whiskey ad at home. We're growing up and there was a guy with hair, like he'd loads of hair playing the bear one, and because he was on the TV, I was like, hello, daddy. Yeah. And so anyone on the TV, I would, because I was like, I'm obviously from a famous acting family.
Because it made it more exciting again.
Adopted people grow up having to make sense of things that normal people don't have to make sense of. We have unanswered questions about our stories, our histories, our identities, and we grow up in an environment where who we are is not reflected back to us. If you're not adopted, you probably take for granted the fact that you grew up having your features reflected back to you. You grew up with a family that looked like you, that sounded like you, that reflected parts of who you are back to yourself. Whereas when you're adopted, you don't grow up with any of that. You look at yourself in the mirror and something seems off about your own reflection because you don't know why you look the way that you look. You see these features in your face, but you don't see where these features come from. Maybe you're like me and you're lucky enough to grow up with a picture of your mom on a nightstand because you grew up in an open adoption, but that's not the same as actually growing up seeing these features reflected back to you. So you grow up constantly fantasizing. Adopted people actually have a term for this place. We call it the ghost kingdom. It's the place where adopted people are not adopted, where we have the answers to the questions we're asking. A place where we actually understand who we are because we're not inhibited by questions of identity or history, etc. Of course, this place doesn't actually exist. Adopted people don't get those answers. We just have to try to figure things out as we go. Even in the best of the best case adoption scenarios, you're different. You don't belong in the way that normal people belong. Adopted people should be able to say this out loud without caveats or apologies because this is our experience. For better or for worse, it is what it is. So the next time you think about saying that adoption is beautiful or telling someone they're lucky to be adopted, just remember, adoption is literally a built-in identity crisis.